Y'all on level 1, I'm level 3. Pounding on the table for my team. Every night I flex. I'm making big moves. That's a big move.
All right, let's get started. Well, first and foremost, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks Sawyer. Thanks for everyone that took some time out, and I'm happy to kick the space off. So, without further ado, I don't want to take too much time, talking about us. I really want to spend this conversation around Tesla, but I just want to start with sharing where I stand with the company. I mean, this is a company that I've been following for many years, and I've been, unfortunately, I didn't get in as early as Sawyer and some of the other ultra Tesla bulls. I actually didn't get into last year because, as this is something I definitely want to touch on in that 5-year period we had where people just doubted Tesla nonstop. And, it's been an amazing run, amazing kind of performance for the stock, and Elon's done incredible for the company. So I'm really excited to kind of hear some more from Sawyer on this, and I kind of want to kick off with that, right? And that's the reason I kind of shared this, because I'm sure there was many people like me. I mean, I started investing in 2013 is when I bought my first stock, and I remember looking at Tesla, seeing the pumps kind of come up slowly, and the nonstop criticism and question and doubt that you saw in the company, and it was really tough to kind of figure out what to do at that time. So that's kind of my first question. That's how I want to kick off or if you want to quickly introduce yourself, but also talk a little bit about how you got into Tesla initially, and what kept you going, right? For that duration. I think 2014 to 2020 really was really, I think, up and down, volatile. You were getting nonstop criticism. Elon was talking about taking the company private. You had Wall Street doubting it nonstop, and what was happening around that time was this whole kind of cult that started being built slowly and surely, and now we're seeing a lot of the people that have been with Tesla for so long kind of reaping those rewards. So I kind of want to start with that, if you don't mind sharing your kind of background with Tesla and what kind of kept you going, and also what got you in initially.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And first off, just thanks for having me. And for those who don't know, my name's Sawyer Merritt. I essentially, I'm a Tesla investor since 2015, and I essentially just cover Tesla news, breaking news, stuff like that on Twitter. So yeah, I started out investing around 2014 with Apple, and then I jumped into Tesla for the first time around late 2015. But it was only like 4 shares though. But after following it for many years, I sort of, and building my conviction partly through the use of Tesla Twitter, actually, I went like all in 2018, like literally every cent I had. And I think this was at like 273-ish, like pre-split. So I think that's around like 53 post-split. So, after that, I had continued to add, for many years. I haven't bought much stock, in any.
Yeah, I think you just muted everyone.
Sorry about that. Keep going, please. Sorry.
All good. Yeah. So if you look back to like 2018, 2019, like there was a lot of volatility. There was a lot of like FUD. The bears were like pummeling the stock essentially, and negative story after negative story came out. But my conviction stayed pretty strong, because of the years of following Tesla, and the research I had done throughout the years, as well as being on Tesla Twitter. Tesla Twitter is like a key part of like investing in Tesla. Like if you're an investor into Tesla, you have to be on Tesla Twitter. Like the insights, the perspectives, the wide spectrum of expertise and professionals, and great like analytical information like helps not only mine but like others' conviction like high, and keeps us really well informed.
Got a quick follow up on that. So I mean, I think this is a challenge that I certainly have, and I think everyone has, is if a stock starts to rise very quickly, not trimming, right? And also what you're saying with Tesla Twitter, right? You kind of get this mob mentality. You got everyone rah around you, and you only are looking for the good, it feels like sometimes, right? And so was there ever a point in time where you I don't know if you did trim at all throughout this, or you started to think about that as it started to go up parabolic? Because I bought it personally. I bought 350 and I sold at 700 pre-split. I was, happy with that. I was like, all right,
yeah.
There had to have been moments for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. Like my belief in Tesla was so strong, and I really believed it could be, and I still do, a multi-trillion-dollar company. So even through like the parabolic 2020 rise, like not once did I think about selling, because I'm not a trader. Like I'm strictly a long-term investor. Even though like I might tweet out occasional like stock price tweets, that's more just like congratulatory rather than focusing on the actual price. I guess the only like time that maybe it was like, oh no, like is this a good investment? Was probably like, I think it was like May 2019, and that's when the stock like hit like, I think it was like $177 pre-split, and this was like right after Adam Jonas on Wall Street held a call with like insiders or his clients or whatever. That's not you just saying like things are going really bad for Tesla, and obviously like the Model 3 ramp was the hell of Model 3 ramp was not quite over at that point, but it was getting better. But he had just like, that was the day he essentially came out with his like $10 price target, and obviously he had a range of like $10 to like, I can't remember what it was, like 300 to 300. But that was like that single day I was like, I don't know if I should sell or not, but I'm glad I didn't, because obviously the stocks were rocketed since then.
Yeah, so I think everyone obviously knows Tesla, and Tesla fans always favorite thing to say, I feel, is like Tesla's, anyone that thinks Tesla's a car company is an idiot. I always hear Tony say that. Can we talk about some of these other legs? I know many people in here may know of some of them, but I'd imagine there's quite a few people in here that, may still think about them only as a car company. So if you could touch on some of those additional legs and perhaps some of the ones that you're more excited about.
Yeah, so I think, and this is a quite recent announcement from Tesla, is that the Tesla bot, I think, could be Tesla's second biggest market after robotaxis. And, the wide spectrum of potential applications that Tesla bot like could be a part of, I think, is quite big. It's sort of hard to calculate like an exact total addressable market, because the technology like hasn't been fully launched and we don't know what it'll look like. But I imagine it could be in the trillions, like just like robotaxis. Like think of all the like the daily tasks like a Tesla bot could do. Like it'll just be a cool technology. I also think Tesla's energy sector is like a really underappreciated aspect of its business, and Elon has talked about this a lot. Like he said, he believes the energy business of Tesla could be just as large as the auto manufacturing side. But because they're quite supply constrained and manufacturing constrained right now, like the energy side really hasn't been able to shine as much as all of us Tesla investors would like to see it. But they're working on they're building a current Megapack factory in Lathrop, California, and of course, if Giga Berlin and Giga Texas launch and open up, that'll help with manufacturing as well, and battery supply and whatnot. But yeah, residential solar, the solar roof. The solar roof, I think around 5 million new roofs are installed each year in the US. So, if Tesla captures, 10, 15, 20% of that market, you're looking at, tens of billions of dollars. If you're looking at an average price of around $30,000, 28,000, whatever, you're looking at tens of billions every year. So I think there's a lot of different legs that a lot of people just kind of sort of focus on the manufacturing side. But Tesla's so much more than just a car manufacturer. They're a software company. They're an AI company. They're, a robotics company. And as Elon has said, like robotic or manufacturing will be like, Tesla's advantage.
Yeah, man, I think the multiple legs are truly the most exciting part of the company, because this one, I mean, anyone that like Avi said, anyone that thinks this is an automotive company, I think it's honestly doesn't know how they're investing. And I see those charts all the time that they're worth more than XYZ automaker, and it's just like, dude, they're creating a new industry of its own, and everyone's trying to follow, and everyone has these targets of 2025 or 2030 we'll have EVs ready, while Tesla's already about to hit 1 million for the year, right, on a run rate. So it's pretty insane that people still think that. But I am excited about the new legs as well, and I think there's so much room for potential there, and I think that's certainly the most exciting part about Tesla, along with the execution, right? I mean, think about the doubt you had in 2016, is Elon even going to get here? Is what's going to happen? The cars nonstop FUD. It was crazy. And that brings me to my next question. I think one of the biggest investors in Elon, I was listening to his interview recently on, I think it was yesterday, right? Ron Barron. And he was saying he netted like 6 billion already, which was that's unbelievable, right? Like Elon netted that much type of return. But what I found more interesting was that he straight up said that I'm holding this investment for 10 more years. And he even brought up Elon's work ethic. And he was just like, Elon works 19 hours a day, 5 hours he's sleeping. And he talked about his 500 square feet. And I don't know if this is true, you might know, but he talked about that 500 square feet apartment or residence or whatever he has near SpaceX, and literally has like no TV and stuff. And it's just the amount of motivation this guy has, and he wants to die in Mars. And Ron Barron, someone like him who's already netted so much, is like he literally said, "I wish the only thing holding me back on this investment is Elon like not staying healthy because of the way he works." Right. So the fact that you have this type of belief in this guy, it's just what do you make of that news, or did you watch that? I'd love to hear your take on that whole segment, because I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Ron Barron is like a great example of like not letting noise impact your in investment decisions. Like he's always had a great attitude regarding Elon and Tesla. Like yes, he obviously does some like portfolio management to mitigate risk, but that's to be expected with a money manager at that level. Like his conviction like is really as high as ever. Like it's like you said, he's made $6 billion on, I think it was like a 200 or 300 something $1 million investment. I can't quite remember, but he bought in like 7 or 8 years ago, and he's continued to, when he goes on CNBC, I think he gives sort of a reality check for a lot of people that sometimes you go through these waves of in your mind of what's like the long-term potential of Tesla, like should I sell, and usually like that's more novice investors, but I think he provides a sort of sense of reality that I think is good. And with Elon Musk, yeah, like there's real key man risk there. Like if something happens to Elon, like that's probably the biggest risk to Tesla investors and SpaceX investors for that matter. So that's something you definitely have to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up, because that's I always, there's few leaders that I think, God forbid, if Elon got sick or got kidnapped, I think those are potential things that could definitely happen, right? And that is a risk. I think there's very few people that have that sort of power or influence, for sure. Touching on some of those other things you were mentioning, and you mentioned the Robotaxis, right? I know that they have a huge partnership to some capacity with Uber, right? Like, do you see, if you want to touch on that a little bit, and then do you see that partnership continuing, or do you think eventually Tesla gets their own Uber-like app where they can just, go to Tesla directly?
Oh yeah, no, I think Tesla will completely run its own business. They won't. I don't think they'll need to partner with like Hertz or Uber. They'll run their own business. But like robotaxis are like a fundamental part of me being invested in Tesla, and I'm sure and many people listening in this room would agree. Like looking at long term, it's potentially a $10 trillion market. I think Kathy Wood, ARK Invest, said it's around a $12 trillion potential market this decade. And with Tesla's full self-driving tech where it is today, like there's no reason to believe why Tesla won't be in the pole position in this self-driving market. I like what I'm seeing with the FSD Beta and their expansion of the user base. Like robotaxis, among other things, like are really what take Tesla from like $1 trillion company to a multi-trillion dollar company. And I really think that'll happen. Like the potential cash generation from a fleet of robotaxis, like it's pretty mind-boggling if you do the math. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and opportunity that I think most of the general public just really is unaware of.
Yeah, and I think it's still continued doubt, right, with this whole Robotaxi thing. I guarantee you, once he figures it out, people are going to be chasing and following and have these ridiculous 10, 20-year targets of them being next. So, no, I think that's certainly part of it. And I think that Hertz news coming this week was pretty cool as well. And I think today they announced for 100,000 more potentially too, right? But yeah, no, so going off of that, I think another product I was definitely kind of keen to hear about is this whole Tesla Cyber truck, right? And then the Gigafactories, right? Have you ever visited one, by the way? So I'd love to hear more.
No, and I'm
If you
sad to
have.
say I haven't. I haven't even been to a Tesla event yet, and
Okay,
a
because I
lot of
saw
people.
I had this tweet over here up, if you guys can see my pin, and this is the Giga Berlin factory that they had a tour or a country fair there, which is pretty cool. And I saw you tweet so that we should do this in Austin. I think Elon responded to that tweet, right?
Yeah, I was like, if you're gonna do this in Berlin, like you got to do it in Texas. Like you got to have a rodeo like Texas style.
Yeah,
Sort of.
can you imagine that in Texas? But yeah, no, I wanted to hear a little bit about the Cybertruck. What's your thoughts on that? What type of market or expect, like, what do you see as a reception from there?
Yeah, so like Cybertruck's going to be a complete game changer. Like not only because of its like revolutionary design, but because it's like a vehicle that appeals to like non-traditional truck buyers. Like I've spoken to probably over 1,000 reservation holders at this point, and like a lot of them have never owned or have even had the desire to own a pickup truck. But the Cybertruck changed that for them. Um, like I think the market for pickup trucks is around 5 million a year, and I really think Tesla could capture a similar market share to Ford. And obviously that's a bold statement, but I really think it's possible. Yeah.
When are those supposed to come out? Because I know they
Late
were like
next year.
delayed a bit, right?
Yeah, late next year, Elon said.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think I saw something in 2022 for that, but yeah, go ahead, Avi.
I was just gonna say, so obviously Lucid's been going nuts recently, so I don't know if you've been following that, but today it started to look like it was about to completely gamma squeeze. Thanks to Problem Sniper, I saw there he is. Thank you, Problem Sniper. KT was a beast, and he got me some good gains on that. But in terms of Lucid, eating potential market share on the higher end, right? They're more of a luxury, and they're going to come in a little more expensive. Do you see them as a risk whatsoever, or do you kind of fly them away like they're not even close to where they need to be right now?
Lucid is pretty unique because they're the first ultra luxury complete EV brand that we've really seen come to the market. And obviously they're going to start delivering their first vehicles this Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see the first customer reactions. And I've been in contact with someone who knows someone who's picking up a vehicle there. And these aren't employees. These are like real customers picking them up. But when you get to that like $120,000, $150,000, $175,000, price point, there's a lot of expectation for vehicles like that. And if you're a buyer looking for a luxurious EV, I don't like, this is obviously a biased Tesla owner or Tesla investor opinion, but like I don't know why you would pick the Lucid over the current Model S, unless you think the Lucid has obviously the 500-mile range is really attractive, and potentially a little bit better materials inside. But in terms of like the lack of the charging infrastructure and service infrastructure, like that would really concern me as an owner of such an expensive vehicle.
Yeah, I think the pricing there is definitely the challenge, and like you said, the charging station. But one thing I do appreciate about you and a lot of the big accounts I see actually in general are never concerned about the competition. You're never shit talking Lucid. You're actually embracing it. I mean, you were the first one I saw, like you said, tweet out that Lucid's going to get delivered on Saturday. I think you were a day ahead of everyone. I think that's what actually started that squeeze today. But I think you tweeted out 2 days ago, right?
Yeah, so many Tesla investors like DM me like, that's fake, bro. That's fake news.
Yeah, and it's literally all over Twitter today.
Yeah, I think it's exciting that I want like, as a Tesla investor, like we should want competition, not only because it helps Tesla perform better, but like if you're a Tesla investor and you really believe in the mission, like you should want
You
other
should want
EV players
EVs,
to
yeah,
come into the market.
exactly. And
And
you
so
want
I'm
that
rooting
whole
for Lucid and Rivian.
exactly. You want that market share to get greater and greater because that kind of promotes that mission of this whole EV and kind of
Yeah.
electric space. So I think, yeah, no, you're 100% spot on. Avi, I think you were going to say something, I think.
Yeah, I was just curious, with I think Biden spoke earlier today. He was talking about, I was real excited because I thought EVs could go across the entire country, but I think in terms of what he was mentioning was the fact that there's going to be, I think, 500,000 more charging stations now that the government's going to get behind a little bit. I clearly just read the headline and saw it very quickly. So I don't know if you had a chance to hear that or the impact, of course, to Tesla being an EV. Will that be affected? And if so, in what capacity, moving forward?
That really won't have a massive impact to Tesla owners because the current supercharger network is already quite vast. But to non EV owners that don't own a Tesla vehicle, yeah, that'll be huge. But I don't know if it'll be like typical like level 2 DC chargers. So it charges less than 100 kilowatts versus obviously Tesla's superchargers that can charge up to 250 kilowatts. So I don't know what kind of chargers they'll be installing. But obviously, more chargers the better.
Are you concerned at all about this run up, sort of just from a price perspective, or you don't care at all what happens to the price? You're just staying kind of in the long run. You're waiting it out.
Yeah. So because I'm a long-term investor, these short-term run-ups are like, they're great, but I'm not really concerned if it were to crash, 30% downwards. Like long-term, I know the relative trajectory of the company and what that'll mean for the stock. So whether, we have some hyperbolic, scream upwards, that's all great for traders and stuff, but that, long-term, I know I'm going to do just fine.
All right, piggybacking off that, then you said you've been holding for several years now, but what is you don't need to get into the details and the numbers, but at what points do you buy? Are you buying on those pullbacks that you're talking about, or if you hear great news coming out, is that like when you'll add to it, or have you when do you add? I guess.
No. I mean, because I have sources too, I haven't bought any in many months. So I just hold my current position, and that's really it. I don't trade in any way Tesla.
And you're not planning on adding any more going forward, or unless something really changes right now, you're just sticking to that core position, right?
Yeah, I'm just sticking to the core position. Yep.
Got it. How do you? I guess so. Is this like full time? Because I think the amount of news you share, it's like it's like pure insider level. It's like so amazing to like follow you. Is this some? Because I know you have some other kind of ventures you do as well. I'm just kind of curious, just because the amount you share, it's like I'm sure people may even want to pay for that type of Tesla information, right? I don't know like how you manage all that.
Yeah. What's really helpful about having a large follower base is actually like as you grow and you become known as like the news share, like a lot of people just DM you news, so I don't have to worry about so much, like at least as much as I used to, about scouring the internet and trying to find the latest news or something I think the internet might, or my followers might find interesting. But yeah, I would say I have two full-time jobs, one Tesla Twitter and the other starting my sustainable clothing business, which I'm hoping we're going to launch next month. Obviously, we've had supply chain issues just like the whole rest of the world, but yeah, we're going to sustainable clothing business. Hopefully we'll launch next month.
What's the name of it? There's your chance for a shameless plug.
Yeah, it's Twin Birch. It'll be sort of casual, sustainable clothing. It'll be made right here in the U.S. You can go to twinbirch.com. You can check it out. We're going to launch a new website actually in a couple of weeks, so it'll look much better.
Awesome.
But yeah, we'll offer stuff for men and women.
Very cool. What I guess this question's a little interesting now that you are a little closer to people within Tesla. Is there anything that people may not know about Tesla, of course, that you can share?
I would say that something that's really underappreciated within Tesla is their engineering and manufacturing prowess. Like the stuff that Tesla is innovating within Tesla, I think the general public just doesn't see, and Elon doesn't talk about it as much as I would like him to, because some of the stuff is really incredible. They have some of the smartest engineers in the world, and if you look at like the top companies that engineers want to work for right out of college, like SpaceX and Tesla are right at the top of the list. So I can't talk about specifically what those innovations are because I'll get in trouble, but they'll start to come out, over the next year or two, and it'll really blow people's minds.
If SpaceX came public, that's another company you'd add, so I'm guessing that's like a guarantee yes.
My family's actually a SpaceX investor. We got in last month.
Oh, really? Nice, man.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you get in that last round and pushed it over 100 million?
No. Actually, we got in at a lower valuation than 100.
That's awesome, man. That's incredible. And this is all from Twitter. Like, when did you start using Twitter? I'm just kind of curious, just because I mean, you've built your, I guess, Tesla brand, if you want to call it, right, within Twitter, I guess, very nicely over time. And I think it's sharing great content, like you said, as well as being respectful. Like, you're never I guess, overconfident on Tesla. You just let it kind of play its course. So, when did you start?
Well, I certainly have my moments, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But thank you.
5 years of pain.
Yeah, I've been on the Tesla Twitter community actually for many years. A lot of people think I just came last year, but last summer was when I really started tweeting like daily. And then I started just sharing news. I was like, oh, I wonder if people will find this interesting. And then I just became like the breaking news guy in the Tesla community. And a lot of people like really take the breaking like seriously, but half the time it's really just a joke. Bro.
How'd you get so close with did someone from Tesla like reach out? They're like, you're kind of the voice of the people of Tesla. Let's chat further. Or?
Yeah, people just DM me. They reach out to me. I'm, my DMs are open to everyone, and whether you have, one follower or millions, I'm so down to talk to you. Like I don't care how many followers you have. I love to have conversations with people all over the world, and I love to get perspectives from those people. So yeah, it really, and it helps my like conviction to hear all these experiences from people all over the world.
Let's have some more conversation then. I think Rahul, did you have any questions that you wanted to ask? Otherwise, we could take maybe a few questions if you're cool with that, Sawyer, from the audience here.
Yeah, if people want to request to speak, and I guess just take it that way and just try being cordial. I mean, these things are supposed to be engaging and insightful, so let's just try to keep the questions, in the right
PG.
Exactly. I think we have a request. All right, problem site calling you up, and then we'll have Matt go next. I'm just gonna have two for now, and then you guys can request, and I'll kind of slowly add you on. So go ahead, KT, and then Matt, you can go next.
All right. I'm a long Tesla investor too for for a long time now. So something that really struck me in this conversation was the robotaxis. I mean, that has been one of my biggest trigger to stay in Tesla. So when we're talking about robotaxis, something that I'm a little concerned about is regulations. Uh, what do you think about that? Like, we are talking about cars driving by themselves in the next 10 years or so. But you know how slow the government kind of works with
Yep.
rules and regulations. So, what do you think about that market cap? Is it realistic? Even with the tech, is Tesla going to be able to push that into the general public usage?
I think that the market or the government, looks at data, and if they see real data, obviously that there's going to be people that are biased, like Missy Cummings and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I truly think that they'll support self-driving when they really start to see, how much of a game changer it is in terms of safety and saving lives. And I don't think we've quite seen that yet. And the FSD Beta is really only there are only a handful of users that have it, and that's really the next leg here for Tesla self-driving tech. So obviously, like, there could be some headwinds in the coming years because of whether it be regulations or red tape and stuff like that. But long term, I am confident that the government will be supportive of the technology, and I think other OEMs start to develop their own technology, they'll want to like see it deployed on the roads too. So they'll start to use unfortunately start to use their money, and try to persuade politicians to sort of get their way.
Awesome.
That sounds good.
Awesome, KT. I'm gonna remove you just because of the amount of requests I'm getting for people. So Matt, if you want to go next, and then I'll kind of approve some more people.
Hey, thanks, guys. So I got invested in Tesla middle of last year. I followed it, immensely, I guess, a little bit before I got started into investing in it. And surprisingly, I was with a investment company and they were trying to get me to, divest all my stuff, in different options. And I thought, I just want to invest in Tesla. And it's amazing, just since last year, just solely investing in that, how much of a gain that I've received just off of Tesla alone. A lot of people say having your investment in different baskets is the best way to do it, but I'm like, it's worked out really well for me so far.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm long term. I look at it that the way that they're the gigafactories in Austin and Berlin and Shanghai, especially with the giga presses, that's a huge game changer against any other EV competition. I think you're talking 5 to 10 years before any other manufacturer can even come close to competing with Tesla. And 10 years down the road, imagine what Tesla will be like down the road for that. The main thing that I'm waiting for is the 4680 battery in the Model X. That's like my big thing that I'm waiting for. But I just look at it long term. It's a long term thing. They'll continue to be far ahead from any other EV down the road. But yeah, thanks for allowing me to speak on here.
Yeah, thank you. I think,
Yeah.
you know, you've obviously performed well last year. And another thing is like Tesla employees are killing it too, but with their positions, because obviously they get company stock. And part of that is because, you know, they aren't in a union. So, you know, I've heard plenty of stories that like just normal employees that become multimillionaires because they've, you know, got, you know, stock options years ago and then they've just held.
It's incredible.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
we have Surya next, and then Mario. You can go after her.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I love these sessions to learn more about Tesla. And, you know, I've been invested in it since COVID, and I'm glad I did it. Question is, I've seen so many valuations where they say 10 years, you know, it'll go to 29,000 from Warren, or even 10 trillion in some cases. Won't the company become too big for, you know, to be regulated? And, you know, just like even Elon has in some tweets has mentioned that, you know, companies getting too big is probably not good. You know, how would something like that be handled with Tesla if it becomes too big and needs to be broken down?
Yeah, so, you know, if they were to get to a $10 trillion plus market cap, it's not crazy to think that the government would want to step in and sort of break them up. But if you look at what happened with like Standard Oil, like 100-ish years ago, they broke into many which are now like multi-$100 billion companies. So if you hold, like, let's say Tesla right before, you know, the government were to split them up, you would still own, like, let's say if Tesla were to be split into the energy business and then an auto manufacturing business, your stock would essentially be split down the middle. So you would own like 50% of it would be in the manufacturing and 50% of it would be in the energy side. So like overall, your position would be just worth just the same. So it really wouldn't have much impact.
Thank you. Got it.
Awesome. Mario, you want to go next, and then I'll add some more speakers as we go. I mean, Sawyer, feel free to stop me if you feel like, you know, you have something to get to, but because there's
No, we're good.
bombarding of questions.
It's all good.
Great. Thank you very much. Sawyer, I've been following you for a year. I bought a Model Y exactly a year ago, and that's when I started following you.
Thanks, bro.
Man, it's the most incredible. I mean, I just can't believe that people don't know what's out on the roads right now. It's incredible. And I'm testing out the new FSD 10.3, and it's just blowing my mind. You know, I'm cruising to work on it with little to no interventions. So
Did you have a 99 safety score or 100?
Well, you know what? I climbed up from a 94 to 100.
Oh, there you go.
It took me a while, but I got it. It's simply amazing. My question is, what do you think is going to happen to the legacy automakers, and do you think that they would eventually adopt Tesla technology, like, you know, Tesla Vision or its batteries? What are your thoughts on what's going to happen to them?
I think there are certain legacy auto manufacturers that won't do well. Like, I think Toyota won't do well, and Honda, we'll see. But I actually think like VW is probably gonna like perform the best. One, because like Herbert Dice, the CEO of VW, like he recognizes like how far behind they are. Like he was talking about the other week, like how it takes Tesla 10 hours to make a car, but it takes VW 30 hours. And he's like, that's just unacceptable. Like, we're way behind here, and Tesla's the clear leader. Like, those are his words. So the fact that he's recognizing that is like huge for the well-being of that company. But then you have other companies that are just in complete denial, or like GM, who comes out every other day with an announcement of something and says that they're gonna like overtake Tesla to some degree in 2025, which we all know is not gonna happen. So yeah, there's going to be some that perform and some that just go underwater this decade.
Thanks, Mario. Dom, did you have a question?
I was going to say real quick, I just know Dom had a lot of thoughts that Nikola could actually overtake.
Oh, shut up. Yeah, right. You're going to bash me like that. I got what? I actually do have some
I
questions,
see.
though.
Sorry, 1 second, Dom. I see you guys all requesting. I'm gonna try to pull you on one by one. So just please hang tight. Lifetime, you can go next. Go ahead, Dom.
Okay, so I want to talk about their partnerships. And so one of the data companies out there that's about to go public, I'm sure you probably heard of them, Wejo, claims that they have more driving data because they work with all of the different electrical vehicles than Tesla. And it leads me to a question of, is it fair to say that maybe with Tesla having so much data as its own manufacturer that it would have a first mover advantage in being the first autonomous approved vehicle before VW or anyone else, because they've captured so much LiDAR data and so much data overall with drivers for so many years? Do you see that being a catalyst or a differentiator for them?
Oh, absolutely. And I haven't actually heard of that company. But like data is king. And Tesla gets over like 40 million real world miles like per day. And I think like Waymo gets like what, like 2 million, I think, roughly. And it's not even close. And they're obviously getting in a specific geographic area, whereas Tesla is getting it all over the world. And with their Dojo like supercomputer coming up and AI stuff and their neural networks, like they can really like pull all that together to create an incredible data set that is so useful into creating the best self-driving technology out in the road that I think other competitors are going to have a hard time doing, because as you said, the amount of data that Tesla has, and it will continue to have, and it'll only grow because obviously many thousands of Teslas are being delivered every week. Yeah, I think the distance between like self-driving competitors and Tesla is only getting wider.
And it seems like from a safety perspective, like if the government does it right for our safety, they should only approve those who have the data to back up the safety on the roads.
Yeah, that would make sense to me. Yeah.
And the second part of question on partnerships is with renewable energies, and we know that Tesla is a big energy player in the world. They do partner with STEM. I'm not so don't know what extent we've seen Tesla batteries actually with STEM setups and manufacturing plants and their software with Athena, basically redistributing the energy to renewable sources, like when solar goes out or wind farms, stop, the wind stops going, being able to stop that intermittency. Do you see more partnerships with things like that with Tesla, or maybe even buying a company like that just to, keep competition out of the game from a renewable energy standpoint?
Yeah, Tesla's pretty good at developing their own stuff with in-house, but obviously when they feel like they need it, they will go out of their way to acquire the needed tools and assets. So it wouldn't surprise me. But obviously they have their own like commercial like energy software. I forget, AutoBidder, I think it's called. And yeah, I haven't looked too much into that.
It's
But it
just
wouldn't.
weird to why they would partner, right? Because like there's a lot of photos with those next to each other, those two battery systems, and there's been articles about how they work together. And so just be curious, because STEM prides itself on their AI Athena platform that's been around for 12 years, and they've basically claimed they have the smartest AI in distributing it. They're working with some of the biggest customers like Walmart, UPS, Amazon, but Tesla does just as much energy distribution as them. I think they just passed them actually this last earnings. And so they're like neck and neck, but yet why would they partner? And that's kind of the interesting thing, is like normally you don't partner with someone if you're just better than them.
Yeah, I think in general, like Tesla definitely just likes to keep stuff in house and grow within, and like vertical integration is their name of the game, and that's something that their competitors don't have.
All right, I guess moving on. Lifetime, did you have a question? And then there's like so many people. Lifetime, go ahead.
Yeah. So hey, I wanted to ask. About a year ago, Elon had a tweet, and he said he'd IPO Starlink in a couple of years, and he'd give access to the retail investors first. So I wanted to ask you. I don't know if it was Galley or Solving the Money Problem, or one of them said that potentially Tesla shareholders could have first access to that, and then basically, how would he go about that if he'd give access to retail investors first? And then in the longer term, do you think he could spin out SpaceX too to Tesla investors?
Yeah, so in terms of Starlink, yeah, I do think it'll go public in the next couple of years, and I think that'll be quite a huge cash cow for SpaceX because obviously they'll use that money to fund their expensive Mars missions. But in terms of like Tesla's investors getting like sort of first dibs or Elon hooking them up, I don't see that happening. Like I don't see any fair way that Elon would be able to do that. And like how does it work? Gally was actually on our podcast last night talking about this. Like how do they incorporate international investors? Like I just don't see any way. And like VCs get their way. Like they just do. So I don't see how he would be able to hook up Tesla investors with that. I'm trying to remember your second half. The Tesla merging with SpaceX. I don't see that happening at all. I don't think Tesla investors would want that, and at least the big Tesla investors, retail investors, I think tend to be for it. But in terms of like merging, like SpaceX still has a lot of losses, and I don't think a lot of investors would want to see the Tesla balance sheet take on those losses.
Do you think the Boring Company could ever come in?
Yeah, I could see Tesla acquiring the Boring Company. That would align much more.
Yeah.
But like the SpaceX mission doesn't really align with like the Tesla mission so much. So, but yeah, like Boring Company would make sense to me.
Yeah, because reducing carbon footprint, and yeah, that would work perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. Jerry, do you want to go next? Then Leon.
Yeah. Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
Yeah. So I just wanted to pipe in on a question earlier. I can't recall the guy's name about the idea that Tesla would be forced to be split up by the government. Let's say they hit a $10 trillion market cap. Although I totally agree with your answer, which would be that it doesn't matter because if they split up, you'd still, your shares would be split accordingly. But at the same time, even if all of our collective dreams come true with regard to Tesla, this is a market that, Tesla best case scenario would get, 35, 40% of the market. They would never be monopolistic in the auto industry. So from that angle, I don't think that the government would split up. And similarly, the energy business, I mean, regardless of how dominant they are, they'll only be a fraction of the marketplace. So I just thought...
yeah, there's always going to be competition and competitors. Like, yeah, I don't expect Tesla to be like the sole player for sure.
Right. Yeah. So I just think that would make it more unlikely that the government would be able to split them up on that basis. But anyway, I have a question as well. What are your thoughts on, let's say, when would you think the Tesla energy business would achieve the current level of the auto business? Like when do you think that would occur?
Well, first you have to have the manufacturing capacity to do that. And the 4680s, which is their next gen battery cell, and all obviously LFP, lithium iron phosphate, those really aren't going to be in a high enough supply probably for a few years because they're like the cars take the priority.
Right.
And stationary storage, it's like at least commercial stationary storage isn't like nearly as big of probably a market than like residential probably is. But probably like maybe 2025, 2026, like maybe that's a little far out. But I guess we'll really have to see how Tesla, their suppliers really start to ramp up because obviously like Tesla can't do it alone. Like they need their suppliers to pump out as many batteries as they can as well. And
you don't think once 4680 is up and running, and let's say a year from now, like at a good sort of clip, that they'll have substantial battery supply to exceed their need for cars?
No, I think there'll be supply constraint for years to come, both on the car side and on the energy storage side as well. Yeah, even though like the 4680s, like the way they're going to manufacture them will be like way quicker and like way more efficient, and they're still working out the remaining kinks that they have left. I still think the demand is just so massive that like they'll still be supply constrained for years to come.
Cool. And one last quick question. I keep seeing these analysts referencing the capacity at Berlin and even more ridiculous at Texas to be 500,000 cars. Like this is absurd to me. I mean, you can land planes in Texas simultaneously. Yeah. Like, I don't get it. What do you think the capacity will be at Texas?
Based on what I was told by my sources, the initial 4680 capacity, just the initial, will be 500,000. So this notion that like Texas will only get to 500,000 is like ridiculous. Like to me, it's going to be probably like 2 million. Like that long term, I think Texas could get to 2 million. I really believe that. And
Yeah,
then of course, like Berlin, similar.
Yeah, I thought that would be like the minimum. Okay, thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, man. Leon, you want to go next?
Yes. Hi, Sawyer. Thanks for all your work and your time you're putting. It's very appreciated.
Thanks.
Two questions. One is, when do you think the FSD will be fully FSD without human interaction? Um, and would American market adapts it before the European market? And what's your comment on the critic that they're saying this is not an FSD, this is level 3, level 4, level 2, whatnot? And the second question is, when you look at the supercharging stations, we're seeing it like more in the West Coast and East Coast, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco. So are you concerned about mid America or the mainstream America, that they don't have those superchargers and the demand is less? The demand is not less, but can it be like mainstream to the whole United States, not the very high markets, the East Coast and West Coast?
Yeah, so in terms of FSD, I think I think like 3 years, we could look at like Teslas will be fully self-driving. Like the progress with FSD beta is incredible, and all the people that are like knocking it down, I don't think probably have ever tried it, or probably have ever even watched probably the videos of it, the latest ones at least, or have maybe even stepped in a Tesla before. So, but if you talk to the FSD beta testers, like as time has gone on, it's only gotten better. It's gotten way more responsive, and the amount of interventions that they're experiencing is like gone way down. Like Elon has said, like he can drive from his house to work like with 0 interventions, and like that's incredible. So it's not hard to believe that we're that far off from a full self-driving world. And remind me what your second question was.
Which market is easier to adapt and the regulation, European market or US market?
I don't really know because I haven't really looked into that, but because it's already been in the US for over a year, like I wouldn't be surprised if like a state like Florida or something were to approve it first. Because I think obviously Europe is going to want to see, and that like the whole system has to train for Europe as well. Yeah, I'm going to guess the US will probably approve it first. That might be a crazy statement, but I'm going to guess that.
Okay, so you're saying 2-3 years from now, no human intervention would possibly be feasible.
I don't
or
want to say
possible.
no human intervention, but yeah, like I think you could like pretty regularly just get in your car and drive somewhere and like not have to touch the wheel once. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And then one last thing is the supercharger. When we look at the map, we're seeing the big concentration in the East Coast and West Coast. Are you concerned about the Mid America or the mainstream, or that they're not as adapting to this EV theory?
I think Giga Texas will actually help with that a lot. And it's kind of odd that like Giga Texas is going to be the Tesla headquarters, and yet Tesla can't sell directly in Texas yet. That's odd, but yeah, no, I think Middle America will catch on, especially when the Cybertruck comes out. Like that'll convince a lot of people.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I think Mighty Tesla next. I'm gonna probably pick 1 or 2 max and then call it a event. I don't want to kind of drag this too long, but it sounds like there's a lot of demand. So I'd love to ask in front of everyone if you want to do this again.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Mighty, go ahead, man.
All right, thanks for letting me ask the question. So Sawyer, we have the tax rebate coming up soon, and Tesla Model Y is sold out till next August. Last update from you, and Texas is not going to ramp up for many months. So how do you think it's going to charge up the demand, and where is the demand going to go from new customers? I'm sure some are still waiting for the rebate. They've been waiting on the sidelines. I mean, where is this excess electric car demand going to go? Do you think people will still wait additional like 6 months to an additional year for Teslas, or do you think they'll go to other manufacturers like Rivian or Ford Mach-E? I mean, they're not the same vehicles, and they don't even have the same production capacity either. So how do you think it will play out?
Yeah, you're always going to have those people that sort of need a car like now, and I've already like spoken to a few, like they really want their Model X, but like because it's been such a long wait, they have to get a different car, a non-Tesla EV. But I think like if the EV tax credit gets passed, like as you said, the long range base Model Y is already like August 2022 delivery date. Like it's not hard to think like if the EV tax credit gets passed, like we're looking at a fully booked out 2022, like and extending into 2023 potentially. The performance model is still pretty good, but I think the demand will come from all over the world and all various demographics and age ranges. Like I just tweeted out today, like I was talking to this 86-year-old guy at the grocery store driving a performance Model 3, and then like I was DMing with this like 17-year-old the other day who also like drives a Model 3. Like the the interest from Tesla owners and like people that love the company, it's like wide ranging. It's not just like, with like a specific, like let's say like Mustang owners. You can probably guess like what age those people would tend to be. But yeah, the demand's going to go nuts if the EV tax credit gets passed.
Then thanks for everything that you do, and also for the dance videos. Looking forward to more.
The cringe dance,
That was
nobody
awesome.
wants those.
That was awesome. Thanks, Mighty. All right, I think I'm gonna have the last two people come. There's just too many questions. I can't have you all on, but I think I'm gonna call on Greg and Bill. I think you guys are waiting the longest. Oh, Bill just left. So Greg, and then who was next? Might have been Mr. Timeless. And hopefully we can do one of these sessions again, because I know there's more questions, and I feel bad, but just too much, and we're already coming in an hour. So, Greg, if you want to go next, and then Mr. Timeless.
Sure, thank you. Hey, Sawyer, thanks for being on this call. I just had some questions about Tesla insurance. I know it's kind of new, and I live in Texas, so I definitely know it's something that's a lot of people are using that product. But I just kind of was curious about the structure. I'm actually in the insurance industry, and I don't see a lot of information regarding the structure or even like on the employment side or just how it's working. So I just was curious if you had any insight, like just the structure of the whole process with the regulatory piece in addition to just the actual retail side of it as well.
Yeah, Tesla insurance is actually probably one of the parts of the business I probably know least about. But Tesla does have a pretty informative website, and if you actually listen to their Q3 earnings call, the CFO Zachary Kirkhorn actually talked about it a little bit, and we actually obviously like I would follow like Holmar's blog, and there's various people that cover the news on it or their experiences with it. And I'll try to share more if I see any news too, or experiences from people, just so you're more aware. But yeah, sir, I don't have a more educated answer for you.
No, you're good. I just know that there's not like a lot of information I've seen. I've been on the website and haven't seen much, but I think it's a game changer. Just there's so many game changers with Tesla, but I think that's another piece of the puzzle that's going to work really well. And I just want to try to gain as much information as I can. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense for like the safest vehicles on the road to sort of calculate how safe they are, and for Tesla to offer their own insurance, because obviously the rates that like other outsiders might offer might just be ridiculous, and it's not based on like direct driving data. Whereas Tesla, you can just pull directly from the vehicle. So yeah, I think as vertical integration is like again just out of play here. It's great.
Awesome, man. Yeah, the amount of legs this company can innovate into is truly going to be exciting. Mr. Timeless, if you'd like to ask your question.
Hey, thanks for taking my question. So I was wondering if you have like any insight. I think a month or two ago there was like an article or a few articles that came out about like Samsung building like the hardware for the cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering, like, what are your thoughts when with currently like the chip shortage the way it's going? Do you think Tesla's gonna be like pushing that upgrade like into 2023, or do you think like from what he said in the shareholder meeting, or a different interview, I can't remember which, but he said something about like next year with like introducing it with the Cybertruck. And so do you think that is still like something that's possible, seeing how like the chip shortage is going?
Yeah, as of right now, it's my understanding that Hardware 4 will be launching with later in 2022 with the Cybertruck. That's still on schedule, I think, and it's going to be quite an improvement in processing power and etc. So, because obviously, Tesla's continue to get better, and the fact that they design their own chips, I actually think helps, because a lot of other auto OEMs just have to like scrape together what they can get, but Tesla has an advantage to negotiate certain contracts with suppliers, because they design their own chips.
Cool. And then just a quick follow-up, if I may. So like with Hardware 4, do you think the regulators, when they are, determining whether FSD should be allowed, or like to be convinced that I guess it's safe enough, do you think Elon has considered, let's build a Hardware 4 system with the cameras that could be retrofitted in case, let's say, we just want to make sure that the regulators are going to approve us in case they don't on Hardware 3, if there's any sort of like limitation?
Yeah, Tesla tends to be pretty good about retrofits, so I wouldn't be surprised if you'd be able to put it into older vehicles, at least to some capacity. But I guess we'll have to see. I don't really have any direct knowledge of that, but that wouldn't surprise me if that was the case.
Cool. All right. Thanks. You guys have a good night.
You too, man. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Sawyer. I don't know if you guys heard early on, but Avi joined as well from Pounding the Table, who he runs a podcast. So definitely give these guys a follow. I think, the handle's on Avi's Twitter. So Avi's one of the speakers here along with me. Thank you, Sawyer. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for answering all the questions. I think this was really awesome. I mean, I have a huge list of requests for questions, so I'd love to kind of have another iteration of this or at some
Absolutely.
later down the line, because it's awesome.
You gotta give a round of applause for yourself too, man. You're killing it on these spaces. So I'm excited for you. And Sawyer, thank you very much. Nice meeting you tonight, and appreciate all the work you've done.
You as well. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
Y'all on level 1, I'm level 3. Pounding on the table for my team. Every night I flex, I'm making big moves. That's a big move.